The wail of sirens shattered the calm of our sleepy suburban street, and I stood there, hands still damp from wrestling with my water main, utterly dumbfounded. Across my neatly trimmed lawn, Linda Harper, the iron-fisted president of our Homeowners Association, was practically VY bratting with fury. She jabbed her finger at me, her voice shrill as she ranted to two police officers who'd just rolled up, their cruiser lights flashing like a scene from a crime show. "That's him," she bellowed, loud enough for the whole cul-de-sac to hear. "He's the one messing with community property." I couldn't wrap my head around it. All I'd done was turn off my own water to stop a leak that was turning my kitchen into a swamp. And now, this HOA tyrant was trying to get me arrested? The neighbors, peeking through their blinds with wide eyes, seemed to agree this was unhinged, even for our tightly wound neighborhood. I'd only been in Crest VY EW Meadows for 3 months, drawn by the pristine lawns and peaceful VYB. The realtor, of course, glossed over the HOA's chokehold, led by Linda Harper, a woman in her 50s with a flawless brunette bob and a clipboard she carried like a scepter. My first week, I got slapped with a violation notice because my trash can lingered on the curb 2 hours past the allowed time. A $50 fine, signed with Linda's dramatic, looping signature. The notices kept coming. My grass was a smidge too long. My mailbox needed a fresh coat of paint. My blue garden hose clashed with the community aesthetic. Each one came with steeper fines and snarkier notes. I tried to keep my head down, fixing every issue fast to avoid trouble. Neighbors whispered warnings about Linda's reign of terror, how she'd measure lawns with a ruler, snap photos of cars parked too long, even sneak into backyards for inspections while folks were at work. Most people just paid the fines and followed her rules. It was easier than battling her maze of bylaws. But everything went sideways yesterday. I noticed a leak under my kitchen sink, and by Sunday afternoon, it was no small drip. Water was seeping into my hardwood floors and trickling down to the basement. I shut off the sink's valve, but the damage was spreading. I called every plumber in town, but no one could come until Monday. With the leak worsening, I had no choice. I had to shut off the main water valve. Grabbing my toolbox, I headed to the access point by my front yard, a small metal cover tucked near the sidewalk. I just managed to turn the valve when I heard the sharp click-clack of heels storming toward me. "What do you think you're doing?" Linda's voice sliced through the quiet like a buzzsaw. She marched across my lawn, her face flushed with what looked like glee at catching me red-handed. I stood up, hands wet, and explained the leak, how I needed to stop the water until a plumber could fix it. Her eyes narrowed, and she whipped out her phone, hitting record. "This is a restricted utility zone," she declared, like she was reading from script. "Homeowners can't touch community infrastructure without HOA approval." I tried to stay calm, pointing out this was my shut-off valve, only for my house, and I was preventing a disaster. "It's literally what these valves are for," I said, frustration creeping in. Linda wasn't listening. She was typing furiously on her phone with one hand, still filming me with the other. "I'm documenting this violation," she snapped. Section 7, Paragraph 4 of the Crest VY EW Meadows bylaws says all utility access points, even for Indy VY dual homes, are under HOA control. When I asked to see the rule, her face turned crimson. "I'm reporting this as felony tampering," she announced, dialing with a flourish. I thought she was bluffing, maybe calling some HOA hotline. Then I heard her say, "Yes, I need to report a crime. This is Linda Harper, Crest VY EW Meadows HOA president. I have a resident vandalizing community property and tampering with water infrastructure. Send officers now could cut off the entire neighborhood's water." My jaw dropped. She was on with 911, spinning a wild tale, claiming I was agitated, possibly drunk, and threatening her while destroying property with tools. When she said I'd threatened her, I shouted, "That's a lie. I'm fixing a leak on my own property." She turned away, lowering her voice, but the damage was done. Minutes later, 2 police cruisers screeched into the cul-de-sac, lights blazing, turning our Sunday into a neighborhood spectacle. The officers stepped out, hands on their belts, clearly expecting trouble based on Linda's call. She rushed them, pointing at me like I was a wanted felon. "That's him. He's sabotaging our water system and threatened me when I tried to stop him. One officer approached me while the other listened to Linda's theatrics. I set my tools down slowly, explained the leak, the emergency shutoff, and Linda's overreaction. I handed over my ID and proof I lived here. Then the tide turned. The officer by the water main looked up puzzled. "Sir, this is a single residence shutoff valve. It only affects your house." He called to his partner, who was still enduring Linda's rant. The second officer inspected the valve and turned to Linda. "Ma'am, can you come here?" She strutted over, clipboard in hand, brimming with confidence. "Do you know what this valve does?" the officer asked. Linda lifted her chin. "Of course. It's part of the community water system." The officer shook his head. "No, ma'am. This only controls this house. Did you tell our dispatcher he was cutting off the neighborhood's water?" Linda's smug look flickered, but she doubled down. "All utilities are under HOA jurisdiction." He needed written approval. The officer asked for the bylaw. Linda fumbled with her clipboard, stalling. The first officer pulled me aside. "You're in the clear, sir. You can shut off your water in an emergent sino issue here." Relief hit me, but it was short-lived. Linda's voice grew louder, now demanding the officers haul me off for multiple HOA violations. The second officer's patience snapped. "Ma'am, we don't enforce HOA rules. That's CIVYL. What concerns us is you making a false 911 call." Linda's face went from red to ghostly white. "I did no such thing. I reported a crime." The officer checked his notes. "You said he threatened you and was vandalizing property, risking the neighborhood's water." "None of that's true." Linda's voice hit a new pitch, insisting she felt threatened by my aggressive tool-wielding and that the HOA gave her authority. The officers exchanged a glance, and the second one said, "Ma'am, lower your voice. False reports are serious. They waste emergency resources." Linda couldn't process that she was the problem. She jabbed a finger at the officer's chest. "Do you know who I am? I want her badge number." That was her fatal mistake. The officer stepped back. "Ma'am, you're being cited for filing a false report. I need your ID." Linda spun to leave, muttering about a meeting. When the officer blocked her, saying she wasn't free to go, she tried to shove past. In seconds, both officers had her arms, listing charges: false report, resisting arrest, obstructing justice. The cuffs clicked on, and Linda's shocked face was a sight to behold. "This is outrageous. I'm the VY Tim," she screeched as they led her to the cruiser. Neighbors poured outside, watching the downfall of their HOA dictator. Mrs. Lee from across the street started slow clapping, and soon others joined in, with someone yelling, "About time," as Linda wailed from the patrol car. The officer who'd cleared me explained Linda faced charges for misusing 911, filing a false report, and resisting arrest. 2 weeks later, the HOA sent a letter apologizing for the incident and announcing Linda's removal as president after an emergency meeting. She'd been fined due law $1,000, sentenced to 40 hours of community SARE VYC, and given 6 months probation. Her job as a legal secretary took a hit too. She was on unpaid leave pending her case. Last I heard, she was screaming about appeals and lawsuits as she left her final court hearing, still clueless that her reign was over. The neighborhood felt lighter, like we'd all been freed from a petty tyrant's grip. But here's where it gets juicy. What do you think? Was Linda just a power-hungry control freak, or did she genuinely believe she was protecting the neighborhood? Should HOAs have this much control over our homes, or are they a breeding ground for many dictators like Linda? And the big one, should she have faced harsher punishment for wasting police time, or was her public humiliation enough? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button if you're Team Homeowner, and subscribe for more wild stories like this.